Hello. I am so happy to
Hello.
have you here for our fourth episode. um, Layal is someone that I met at a conscious movement training a few years ago, maybe 2-ish years ago, but it feels
Yeah.
like a lot longer time, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And her work is really rooted in the intersection of movement and somatics and working with women. And she's a powerhouse of a mover and dancer and woman, and I will let her introduce herself. Yeah. Please share whatever your heart feels like.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It actually gives me a moment to reflect back on the short, but actually, as you said, like so long journey since we've met. Um, so yes, as you said, my work lies in between dance, somatics, yoga, martial arts, and the natural movement, like the movement that is inspired by the natural world around us. And I also studied psychology because I believe that everything is interrelated and the whole body is like our whole being is like a big web of things interwoven, especially for women. We're such
Um,
complex yet very simple also systems. So um yeah, my work is lies on the foundations of rewilding and finding again this untamed self within us while staying in devotion to ourselves and the bigger purpose that that is our calling in life, right?
I would love to ask you how you found yourself on this journey, even with your own self, even as a space holder. I mean, I think the two are so connected anyway, but how did you find yourself coming into this deeper contact with your own body?
So my journey with movement didn't start at a very young age, although I am such a hypermobile person since I was a very young child. Even I remember my mother telling me like used to lose me when we used to go to nature, climbing on trees, getting lost in the middle of nature. And not up until I was like in my mid-20s, where I entered a very toxic relationship. And even before that, like around 18, 19, I started noticing that there's something so heavy about my mind, although I was going to different self-empowerment and self-development programs. And I'm like, there's just something that is not clicking within me. Like, it's so beautiful to study the mind. It's so beautiful to study our thoughts and emotions and everything. And when I was in that very toxic relationship, I'm like, we just need to dance. And I was so afraid to take dance classes because I was I remember telling myself the story like, no, I'm not good at dance. I cannot learn a choreography. I will be judged. I am so stupid. I like, how will I look when I'm dancing? But then exactly why I chose to go like, not all that. I want to go to dance. And that's where my journey started. Um, I started taking like dance classes, and then this was more than 14 years ago. Uh, and then I was introduced. I was also researching during that toxic relationship. I was also researching like the relationship between the body and the mind and the soul, and like I was sensing there's something inside of us, deeper. And I found a teacher who agreed to come to Lebanon from the States uh 10 or 11 years ago. And she was the one who introduced me. Like, I can give you a bit of mentorship if you can just post me and we can have like workshops. And that's where I started learning about somatics and authentic movement practices, and all that world opened in front of me, and it has been the journey ever since. It never stopped.
Yeah. And would you say that there was a point like in this journey that you also, started to maybe come into deeper contact with the fact that we are part of something larger?
Oh, this I think came even before movement, right? So, um, I remember that moment very clearly. I was walking in my neighborhood. I don't know how old I was. I was really young, and I was walking. I remember, like, I stopped in the middle of the street and like, oh, whoa, shit! Like, what? And it's that kind of like thing that falls upon you, like, you know, like, okay, so this is that. Then, religion is not really religion. It's just a way that my mind has been brainwashed, and I got so overwhelmed that when I went home, I didn't know what to do with myself, and it's like it started bubbling inside of me. And that's when I became more aware of my mind. That's why I started going then when I was 18 and 19, searching for um, um, methodologies to change how I think, because I thought it was only imprinted inside my mind. And I'm like, if I can, shift my mind, that then, everything will change also. And I was also one time sitting in a gathering and a festival in a big forest, and I was sitting with a guy. I don't even know his name, but we entered like a state. We put our hands together. Then I saw the whole earth, and it was all filled with like hands, like holding each other. The whole earth was just hands interlaced and intertwined. And then I breathed out and I looked around like, wow. So these two incidents happened. Like, one was a few years earlier, and then 2021, and I was 2021 when I saw this image. Of course, I was like near a river and saw the very beautiful forest. Like, nature has been always the biggest inspiration for me. Like, and then after that, I started walking and I started noticing the little ants, and I was so scared to step on them. Like, no, I don't want to hurt you, you know. And up until now, I'm very conscious when I'm walking not to step on ants, because now in summer they are working, so I don't want to destroy their work line. So, yeah, I know that I am just a small part of this earth, and I am here just to contribute um, with the 0.001% of what I have to contribute to, like within this whole organism and ecosystem. Like, humans are part of an ecosystem. No, it's not like the ecosystem and the humans. No, no. We created something that I call the ego system, which is centered around the human needs, But the human needs are nothing but parts of a continuation of what the whole system is needing from us. It's like it's an accumulation of things, a continuation, sorry, of things. Um, and if we keep on separating ourselves from the bigger view of Earth, of nature, that we only want to use her or just look at her, oh wow, today is the weather is so beautiful, the nature is so pretty, then we are distancing ourselves from ourselves also. Um, and then also, like over the years, I like it's so logical and natural. Like, we decompose into earth. So our body is actually just made out of earth. It's not just flesh and bones, no? and it's made out of air, also the breath that we take, and the blood in our vein is the water. So we all know that here we are 70-80% of water and the rest. So of course we are nothing but nature. And these realizations, they're not like born within a day or two, but like the moments that I mentioned in the beginning, they were like sharp moments in my youth that kind of guided my process of opening my eyes into the bigger picture of how the world doesn't just revolve around me, and why I'm working on myself is not just for myself, it's for for me to become a complementary um, part of the ecosystem, because each small little insect, plant, they know what their role is and they are accomplishing it without complaining or without needing to kind of well, they fight for their own but without even fighting within themselves. You know, they know their space, they know their task, and they know what they're here for. And so do we. But but along the way we have forgotten. We have forgotten, and then the separation started. Then also we stopped also syncing with the sun and the moon, and like if I wanted to keep on talking, I can go on for ages and ages, like how we are part of a bigger system. And when we just focus on the ego system, not on the ecosystem, and we work on ourselves first, like, oh, I want to feel better, but okay, you want to feel better, like focus on the why, on why, on the why, and where is it coming from? When we go out from our bubble, that this system has anchored in us something very individualistic, you know, we cannot function like mycelium, you know, like mycelium, they are under the ground. No one sees them, but they are the food of the forest, and without them we would have no food at all. We would have no forests, we would have no fruit trees, we have no veggies, we have nothing. It's like the basis. So our our connections to each other is also like the mycelium, and to our own lives and our own healing processes.
Yeah, thank you for, bringing so much wisdom and insight on this separation and disconnection between us and Earth, and also how it has actually not always been this way. Like, even when you say that, like, nature has always been an inspiration, it reminds me of how, like, if we are not separate from nature and we are nature, then innately we also have this ability to be inspired by each other, by the trees, by the land, as if we are part of everything, and we are part of this life force energy, this creative energy. And somewhere it's like we have forgotten even that essence. Like, we are so used to exploiting nature now and abusing nature instead of seeing her as inspiration, like, and seeing that in ourselves and in each other. And I think what you also shared about, like, us, ecosystem, that word, great word. I think, yeah, we have 100% created an ecosystem where it's become all about the self. Like, capitalism is also very much, yeah, like a system that is centering the self and the pushing forward of oneself, and smaller, like like for example, if like white man gets really rich, it's
Yep.
very rare that he wants to share his wealth, like, we have created that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that what this word is very nicely created that you have. I don't know if you read it somewhere or you just came up with it. It's amazing. Yeah, I think that like these systems, the patriarchal system, the capitalist system, the colonialist system, they are egosystems, and we need to recognize that actually, that these are all, they have been created because of the fact that people who created them have been operating from their ego.
Yes.
And what would it mean actually for us to create a newer system where maybe we are more operating from our heart and living in more openness and connection to this possibility? Yeah.
Well, I say ecosystem, um, not also to say that the ego, because also like what comes to my mind, because psychology is such something very deep to me. The ego is something that is very important. It protects us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But everything that is used in excess, like as you said, we are abusing, we are exploiting, then we are also exploiting ourselves. We are exploiting ourselves and we are exploiting nature. For so the new world, or the world that has been created on not from like you sent me a word and it really is stuck with me, which is devotion, you know. And for me, to be able to create from the heart and not from ego structures and ego systems that are based on the depleted self, you know, because that ego place, when we're just creating from there, from the I want, I need, I lack, I. The I is important. Like when we are children, we are developing our identity. We are recognizing ourselves as entity, you know, we are anchoring ourselves. Great. Then what happens in later stages after we have become conscious of everything around us, you know, and conscious of each other? So if we keep on operating from that I, not the the I could be here, not just here, because if you operate just also from the I that is in the mind, it's also like disconnected from the heart and from the earth. So instead of ascending, we need to be descending. We need to be rooting ourselves. That's what I see also nowadays. The white man who also bought the land, he is now so happy he created the word like, I am rooting myself. I'm so sorry, man. Like these techniques are ancestral techniques that existed before a million years, you know, not because like the West now wants us to believe that they have discovered new ways of grounding and rooting, you know. It's still coming from an ego place that I have discovered something. As you said, everything is inspired by nature and through nature. She is the ultimate guide for us, you know. She's the God, she's the goddess, she's everything. She has been given to us for us to adore her, as we are supposed to adore ourselves and our bodies, to return back to her in the utmost divine form, you know. And what is the utmost divine form? To come back to, if we are to come back to earth and feed the soil, the utmost divine form is when we find this field around us, you know, that is, if we take a look, for example, of how certain plants live next to each other, then how can we inspire also our connections to each other? If we observe how certain clans of animals and insects do we take some moments to observe her, to observe nature in her decadence, in her aggressiveness, in her rage, or we just like to observe her and say like, uh, when just like the weather is nice, or when we have a nice view in front of us. So it takes real determination and devotion to to be present with all the elements in all their forms, similar to being present with the aspects of ourselves. If we run away when it's like too hot, but nature has also provided us with alternatives. Like we can be near the water body, we can be hiding under a tree. She provided us with tools also, with tools, but then we butchered her. We butchered her. We butchered. I think that's the right word, you know, because we are witnessing like the how the world is being butchered nowadays, and this is just a reflection of what we have done as humans, you know, with so much consciousness. Where are we taking this consciousness? So if she is providing us, she is the feminine and the masculine at the same time, because she is the provider and she is the nurturer. She is not just feminine, she is both. I say she because I want to say she, because she is me and I am a she and in my body, you know. So, and I see her birthing and taking care and then providing and then protecting and then giving structure and then giving chaos. So the reflection of the world nowadays is a reflection of what we're doing to the body of the earth, that we are not dedicating our lives and our time and our practices to a higher purpose. If it was for a higher purpose, if we are like saying, okay, my practice is in devotion to whatever the deity that, for example, I love her. Her name is Akshamlar. She is a deity, and I heard from uh, a woman who saw my tattoo. I didn't even know what was this. I did it and I didn't know. So her name is the Deer Woman, and she is from the Native American, and she's the protectress of nature and women. She avenges women and children and nature. So she goes and kill men who rape nature and who rape women. So now you are talking to someone who, in her blood, I mean, I do understand Kali's essence. It's like the sacred rage, you know? And I see now the rage like being inside all our bodies, you know, and all the murder that is happening. It could be a sort of a cleanse, but we have to witness this because we are doing the same. Her rivers are bleeding. Her water is so. What have we done? How can we say that we are doing this for a higher purpose when our practices are not taking her into account? When we are just going and just, I want to eat. I want to cultivate this. Oh, I want to plant this, and we are destroying her womb when we plant certain plants, or and the list goes on and on and on and on. Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering then, like, what does living in devotion to and harmony with Mother Earth mean to you? Like, how do you see that as a possibility? What does that look like?
Possibility is as I was saying previously, is to at least be present with the natural element. If we don't have access to them, so at least if we are in a city and we want to be connected with nature, to go to buy our vegetables and fruits and connect to our source of food from a local farmer, from places that, you know, they don't have to be organic. No, connecting also with source can be the source of our food, and connecting to the source inside of us, which means that I drop constantly into my body. I drop constantly into my roots. I drop constantly into my breath. I drop constantly into my veins. And if this is very difficult also, because some people are so disconnected, when I drop into my breath, which is very accessible to anyone, and and I try to use my eyes to observe the small elements around me. If I am in a city and I see a tree, maybe I can see her resilience and maybe just say thank you, thank you, thank you for cleaning the bit of air that is present. Because like I go once in a blue moon to the city and I feel I'm suffocating, you know, just to be aware of the small things every day. And if it's not every day, at least like put a reminder on our phones. You know, today I'm going to think of one natural element, and to live in devotion to nature is to make her part of our inner system, of our mind also. If we want to rewire our mind, I'm gonna go back also to what you said, is to be constantly inspired. If we are like, if we feel that we are blocked or there's something that is not flowing, to just look around us or remember a memory we had with the beach, the ocean, with the mountain, with the tree. I'm sure everyone had at least one experience with one element of nature, you know, whether it was a tough one or a joyful experience. Um, so how I do it, I kind of, I'm very grateful because I chose to live in a place that is far away from the the city. So I work with the earth. I actually I grow my own food, and I even um will spend lots of time just observing what is happening around me in the forest or in nature, you know. If there is a fire happening and I say like, I just I kind of see the um subtleties that are trying to be conveyed, you know, like the symbols, like, okay, so if this forest burned, like, what is she trying to say and why did I see it now? So I kind of like to play with this element, you know, like of the things that I see through the nature, and I take them as signs and symbols to guide my life when I feel like, oh, I need guidance and my tarot is not working and my astrology is not working and my best friend is like, okay, then I take a walk and I just be present. I be present with the elements around me.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful reminder to all of us of how simple it can actually be to connect with nature. Like, she is literally right there all the time. Like, even when we think we are sitting in an apartment, like, actually, if you open the window, you're gonna feel the wind. She's right
Yes,
there.
yes,
Like,
exactly.
and it's like, I think somewhere the disconnection between us and nature has become so strong that a lot of humans have begun to think that to connect with nature, they need to go on a trek or they need to go and, sit in a park. And I mean, I think I have been there too before in the past, where I think that in order to really feel into my connection with nature, I need to be fully present in her and with her. But I realize now, like, as my journey has deepened, how deeply she's a part of me and I am of her, that even if I'm sitting in a apartment now, I can still connect with her. Like, I can still feel her presence and embrace her. And I think that it would be beautiful if we lived in a world where perhaps more of us become more attuned to this innate connection we actually have with nature as human beings. Like, we are literally birthed from her womb. There's no escaping that. I mean, we come from her, we're going to return to her. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was going also to mention, to connect to the womb. whether we are a woman or a man, or doesn't matter, no matter what kind of body we live in. Connecting to the womb is a space we have all kind of let go of or forgotten. We've forgotten. So going back, going back there, like to that sensation of being held, of being safe, um, and also not being safe, because she also provided us with that the feeling of fear. The feeling of fear that we're trying to fight so much is the essence of our survival, is the essence of our creation, is the essence of us turning things to our own benefit. But then when we use fear against us and against her to control her, then we are going to the um like the negative side, the darker side of fear, because fear is a huge motivator, as we see the animals and the kingdom on earth. When they are afraid, they run for their lives, and then they shake. But us, when we are afraid, we created the coping mechanisms that are connection. We disconnect from ourselves, from the other, from nature, and we try to control. We try to control her by killing the animals that are dangerous to us because we are invading their space, so we kill them. Or we control her by spraying pesticide, by killing all the little insects that are good actually for the soil because we want to multiply our benefit. We try to control also the others through our actions, through our thoughts. So there's this idea of control that is birthed out of fear. But fear, if we go back to it, inside the womb, when we sense fear, there is something that brings us back to safety. If we look really deep within, no, if we go back to that sensation of being held by the earth, maybe it's a bit more challenging to do it, but the more we drop into, and we can literally use our hands and our body to create the shape of a woman. And like even when I do it now, I can feel warmth, you know, warmth in my hands. So this kind of sensation, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. I am curious to bring in this piece around, um, conflict in the world as a mirror to our disconnection. I think you kind of touched on it a bit earlier as well, briefly. And I know that you have, you're also born and raised in a place that is suffering because of this disconnection. So I'm want to hear from you as someone, who was born and raised in Lebanon, like how do you feel that this disconnection from nature has also really affected the suffering of people in certain parts of the world?
Yeah. Oof. This is a very deep it's a deep thing inside of me, and um I was born in war, during war, and I witnessed many ones. Um, I believe that the, I believe it's a very big word, but the root of suffering that is happening, that keeps on happening throughout generations and cycles of human life is is because we have grown apart. We have grown apart because we're like a person who is connected, truly connected, not just like not just like reaping the benefits, because there are farmers that I know who works in permaculture or agroecology, um, but still there is this resistance inside of them, to jump into the holistic point of view. Um, so when we connect deeper to what it means to be part of the earth, and when we hurt her, when we are hurting ourselves and each one of us, it is almost it is almost impossible to see that our suffering is separate from the suffering we are inflicting into the earth. Because when we cut a tree, it is the same as killing a human being. And many people will disregard this or will be completely like opposing me, but I don't see it as separate from that. Because like for example, the trees that have been killed in the Amazonia, they constitute like the 80 or 90% of the air the air cleansers of the air that we breathe, and they have killed all these trees for their mass production. And in my country, with the mass murder and the mass killing that I've been witnessing, are just humans who are hungry for control and for power. So their fear of the of something more sovereign to come have led them to more control or more destruction and more destruction and more the destruction of the earth, because what they are attacking actually is the earth. They went and they killed the land. They killed all the olive lands, the olive trees, the native plants, like medicinal plants that don't exist elsewhere. I was reading the other day, like the land is burned in the south and in many 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 different areas. So, and how do you make a people like, or how do you become um less sovereign over your life when you are disconnected from the source of your medicine, from the source of your life? Because it is a life force. It is a life force, and the earth provides us with the medicine that we need to heal ourselves. The plants, and they are robbing us from this. And this ecosystem from which those men, I don't know, men and women that are um, functioning from, and they are leading their wars from, and they are killing their everyone from, are based on systems of control and fear from from the knowledge of the earth. So they want to kind of take everyone away, from what it means. Because people in the village, that's what they say. They're saying like, they took us from our life. They took our life from us. What it means, our life, it's not just the belongings, it's their connection to the soil. And it's not because they want their comfort. No, these are people who know what it means to live in to live in community with land, with each other. The land invites you to live in community. It doesn't invite you to live in an individualistic life. So what they want is they want to push everyone go and stay in luxurious apartment, separate them, and become machine-like away from what the earth invites you to do, because the earth invites you to engage your whole being with her. And when you are taken away from that, you are left with what? You are left with your mind. You are left with like overthinking, and you are detached and like derooted, no? So, so of course, the source of all suffering that we are witnessing, it's it's a mirror. It's a mirror to what we have done to the earth also across, well, the years and the centuries. And she has to show us in a way or another. She doesn't have any other way of communicating. And if we keep on abiding and saying that, like, if we just blame one side, and we don't take responsibility, if we don't hold, if we're not holding ourselves accountable also, and continuing to act as victims for the ecosystem, then of course we won't help. We are kind of supporting that. So being accountable, holding ourselves accountable to hold a bigger perspective that we are part of a bigger sphere, and becoming more aware, not just like the usage of plastic and eating more and more organically, because these don't mean anything. They don't mean anything, you know, if we are not conscious. If you are not conscious of every little thing, what it means to be in devotion, in connection to nature, to Mother Earth, and to each other, hence to each other also, then the separation and the cycle of aggression will continue happening until we learn, until we decide otherwise, until we decide otherwise.
No, thank you. I think absolutely until we decide to wake up and address that our suffering is actually leading to this mass suffering, we are going to just stay stuck in this loop. And that's why it feels, more important than ever that people really start to realize that the point of being angry at like also war happening and, being like a social justice activist online, it's only gonna take you so far. Like what we really need is actually people to go on that inner journey so that more and more people will awaken further to this connection with Earth and she stops suffering, and slowly but surely the planet can heal and more people can lead to, I suppose what I'm trying to say is more and more people being in this awareness and this embodiment can lead to eventually less destruction and less war, and hopefully at some point no war, because
Hopefully.
yeah, actually, like, the people who are creating war, they're also just running away from their own pain. And if we, the ones watching them creating the war, like feel very strongly about it, of course that's showing us like our capacity to feel and our humanness, and that's beautiful. And on one hand, like, anger is conducive and productive, but on the other hand, there's also, I think, like, channeling that anger towards like your own connection with Earth, because actually that is what's going to like ripple out eventually into more harmony. And I know sometimes it's really hard for people who maybe are so far removed from what you and I do to even digest these words or understand these words, but it feels important to really name that, like, yeah, it really all starts within. And as like annoying as that can sound sometimes, and as removed as that can sound sometimes in so many ways, it is still true, because what, like, as above, as below, right? And as within, as without, like, so yeah, like, that is something I really hope that with time we move more and more towards. And I would love to know as well, like, what you think perhaps this, like, newer world, if we are walking towards it, like, what does it look like for you in tangible form?
Um, the newer world, I would I would imagine um the white man sharing his land with people who are incapable of having land for a reason or another, with people who have the skills to plant and to grow things and to build things, to grow communities. Because this white man, he won't be so happy to be alone. No one wants to die alone and eat alone. No? I would hope also on this new earth that although it's kind of challenging to build communities, but also um, for me the most tangible form is through people helping each other and supporting each other, um, awaken or just open to new ways, new old ways, like the old ways how people live, but are more adapted to our new level of consciousness and existence, no? And that each one of us would find their calling, because not everyone's going to do the work that we do, because we need to eat. We need people who know how to bake. We need people who know how to build. We need people who know how to use medicinal plants. We need people who know how to write beautiful poetry. We do, but also, like, we need people who make beautiful music. We need people who paint. So there are lots of handcrafted hand things with our hands and our bodies and our minds to do. When I see it in a tangible form, I'm kind of inspired to see a world where no matter what you do, it is very essential, and for us to believe in what we came here to serve for and to serve, we came here to serve. So just I'm going to go back to what we're saying about the ecosystem. If we want, and for us to be inspired by the ecosystem, and I'd like to call it the human permaculture, no? To be inspired by how to live like how nature is living, to bring those structures and apply them to ourselves, and to building communities that actually last and can that are thriving, not just growing, because growth is a very ecosystem uh, word, you know? So I love to use the word thriving, because there's also this woman that I heard her talk about the donut economy, the donut, like the donut, which also, which invites people and women to think of how to include the ecology into economical systems, right? So also this is something, like, if people are listening to this podcast, like, research a little bit about donut economy. Like, we need people who kind of think of alternative ways of using money, of exchange things. If we are to think of a new earth, of a new world, we have also to go to maybe I'm not good with economics or finance, maybe I am, but we have to think about, like, not the so much fun things, because it's not always fun to do things, but we have to do them. We have to do them, and this is kind of a product of spiritual bypassing. No, I will do this when I feel like it. No, But Mother Earth doesn't function that way. Sometimes she has to produce seeds, whether and the tree, like for example, or a plant when she is cut, she starts producing seeds. She doesn't want to produce seeds now, but she is cut, and she, in order to survive, she starts producing seeds. And so, and so, uh, I don't like the word should, but so should we. So it should be, should we be inspired by the act of uh, to create the world that we are aspiring to? There are some things that have to be done, and for each one of us to be completely true, to get to know themselves through the other, through a constellation, an ecosystem. There are many practices that are done on a group work. So each one would present their skills, and there is not one skill that is better than the other. Each single existence is important for the creation of whatever new vision we are aspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all unique, just as the way nature is. Like, there's so much uniqueness even in our plants, in our trees, in our flowers, and we're just like that too. And I
Yes.
think everyone's uniqueness is needed to bring forward a newer way of living, and to be in service at this point of time to humanity feels more important than ever too. And it's really about a collective effort, and it's a collective need and desire and awakening towards a better world, like a world where we are not living in this destruction and war and chaos and greed and just these toxic systems that have ran the world for too long.
Yeah. It's a long journey. It's a long journey, but it's a journey. It's a journey of remembrance
Mm,
and reconnection. First, we need to remember, then we need to reconnect, then we need to go back, go back to the essence
yeah,
and redesign ourselves and the way we view our connections with the within ourselves and without us, as
mm.
above, below.
Thank you for this beautiful conversation. It's been such a joy and honor to share this space with you. And yeah, I would invite everyone as well, if they are looking, for a space holder to be held. Like, you can contact Layal. You can also check out her profile on our directory on Taqat's website and know more about Layal and the work that she does. And yeah, also there are many free resources on the website to people tuning in that just allow you to create a deeper connection with your body, with Earth. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me and for creating this space and for also creating Taqat. It's very dear to my heart. Um, yeah, for everyone who is listening to this, just at the moment, just take a deep breath. And if this podcast will inspire you anything, just remember to breathe at all time.
Thank you.
Thank you.